Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another week in the weekly parsha. This is PARSHAS BAMIDBAR, a new sefer, the fourth of the books in the Chumash, and this is the last class before Shavuos, which is next week. We will not have class, obviously. So I'd like to tie in the parsha to Shavuos Be'ez Hashem tonight, that we can walk away with something to think about as the up and coming week, and we're getting closer to Har Sinai. So the Torah itself actually starts off in the beginning of the parsha like this: Vayidaber Hashem Moshe b'midbar Sinai, and Hashem spoke to Moshe b'midbar Sinai, in the wilderness of Sinai, ba'oy Moed, in the tent of meeting, be'echad l'chedesh hasheni v'shana hashenis, l'tzeisam eretz Mitzrayim, when they left Mitzrayim, and this is the beginning of the census that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to count of Klal Yisrael to see how many Yidden there are in the Midbar, in the wilderness. Now the Midrash is bothered over here by the following question: Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe b'midbar Sinai. Why does the Torah tell us that Hashem spoke to Moshe in Midbar Sinai, in the wilderness of Sinai? This is the Midbar, this is the wilderness, this is the desert that they are in. There's almost no reason why it is that the Torah has to say over here, Midbar Sinai, that it's the wilderness of Sinai. We know it's the wilderness. Sinai anyway is a mountain. It's one mountain in the entire desert. It's where the Torah was given. This is long after the Torah was given at this point. So why does the Torah tell us that when Hashem came to speak to Moshe, it was in the Midbar, in the wilderness? It was Midbar Sinai. It was the wilderness of Sinai. The Midrash has many answers to this question, but I'd like to go through one of the answers over here. And he asked the question, Lama b'midbar Sinai. Why is the Torah telling us that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu, it's coming in Midbar, in the wilderness of Sinai? It should just be the Midbar itself, the wilderness. Mikan shanu chachamim. From here, the sages learn three things. They teach us b'shloisha devarim nitna Torah. The Torah was given with three things. What are those three things? Be'esh, it was given in or with eish, fire. Uba mayim, it was given with water. Uba midbar, it was given in the midbar, in the wilderness. The Torah that Klal Yisrael received at Har Sinai, it was given in three different things, or with three different things: fire, water, and midbar, and the wilderness, the vast, desolate wilderness. But eish minayin, how do we know the Torah was given with fire? Because it says Har Sinai Ashan Kulai. We know that the Har Sinai was Ashan Kulai. The whole thing was smoking because of the fire. So we know that when Klal Yisrael came to Har Sinai, it was given to them, the Torah, with fire all around it. Ubemayim minayin, how do we know it was given with water? Because it says, Shenemar gam shemayim netafu, gam avim natfu mayim. It says over there that the heavens were trickling down and the clouds were dripping water when? At the time that the Torah was given to Klal Yisrael. Midbar minayin, and how do we know that the Torah was given in the Midbar, in the wilderness? Vayidaber Hashem, it says, Vayidaber Hashem Moshe b'midbar Sinai. Hashem spoke to Moshe in Midbar Sinai, over here in this pasuk. So now, that's the three things: fire, water, and midbar, and wilderness. So the Gemara, the Mishnah wants to know. So that's very nice. It's like very poetic type of idea over here. It's very, you have a nice vision over here of what was going on. The mountain is smoking with fire, and the water is dripping down from Shemayim, and we're standing there in the wilderness to receive everything. Why was it so important that the Torah was given with these three things? Remember, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, everything that he does is to impart a message to Klal Yisrael. So if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give over these three things, with the Torah, with these three things, then it must be there's some kind of a deeper message that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to impart to us. Ask the Midrash, V'lama nidna b'shlosh davar halalu. Just like these three things, water, fire, water, and the midbar, in the wilderness, are free to everyone in the world. You don't have to have money to get water. I mean, if you don't go to the store, you can walk, you can go into the ravine, you can go into the wellspring, you can go into the ocean, you can take from the river. It's free. Fire, the Mefarshim explain, it multiplies very quickly. A little bit of fire goes a very long way. You blow some wind into it, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the midbar, of course, we understand a wilderness is an empty wasteland. It's ownerless. There's nobody there that has houses. Nobody has anything over there. It's an ownerless place. And it was given, and they're free. Ma elu chinam, just like these three things are free. Kach divrei Torah chinam hem, you should know as well, the words of Torah are free for the taking also. You don't have to pay for the Torah. That's why we don't charge money for classes. You don't have to sign up for the Torah. You don't have to barter. You don't have to barter for the Torah. The Torah is chinam. It is free. It doesn't cost a dime. It doesn't cost a dime at all. Shenemar, and he quotes verses over here, called Samaluchulamayim, everyone that is thirsty, let him come and drink. And it's referring over here to the water, quotes other verses, so on and so forth. And that means that what? Says the Gemara. Anyone who doesn't make themselves into a midbar, into a wilderness that is ownerless, they will not be able to acquire for themselves the wisdom of the Torah. That's why it says the Torah was given in the wilderness of Sinai. So the prerequisite for us on the Yom Tov of Shavuos, because Shavuos is not just a day that is commemorating what took place when Klal Yisrael was on Har Sinai. It is literally reliving the experience that Klal Yisrael had when they stood by Har Sinai. And just like the mountain was lifted up, and just like the shofar was blasting, and just like Klal Yisrael said, Nasiv and Ishma, and just like we became a nation like no other nation in the world at that moment in history, Hashem gave us everything. Says the Midrash that you should know that the Torah was given in these three things: fire, water, and midbar, because these are three components that a person must have inside of them, inside their Kabbalah Torah, in the way that they're going to receive the Torah in their lives. So now, what is the message behind the water, behind the fire, the water, and the midbar? The Midrash says simply, they're free, doesn't cost money. So to the Torah is chinam, the Torah is free. Like Rashi writes in the Chumash, don't think you have to go across the world to get the Torah. You don't have to go up to with your spaceship X into Shemayim to get the Torah. You don't have to do any of that. The Torah is right here. The thing is very, very close to us, and it doesn't cost a single dime. It's right here. Now the Nesiv Shalom writes on this midrash the following words. And he says, Chazal teach us, Haderech eich yikones ha'adam l'kabbalas ha'Torah. This is the way that a person is going to enter into the receiving of the Torah. Again, it's next Tuesday night, as you're dreaming about the sushi platters that are coming at 2 o'clock in the morning. Because who else could think about anything at 2 o'clock in the morning besides sushi? That's already 1 day old, by the way, just to remind you. So while we're coming, no, you're right, it's not 1 day, it's right, Erev, okay, fine. We'll come on Erev Yom Tov, it'll be fresh. A few hours old, okay. So says the Nesiv Shalom, these three things are required in order for us to receive the Torah in the proper way. But Eish, what is fire symbolic of and indicative of? These are the spiritual powers that are inside of an Adam, of a person. There's a fire that is burning inside of us. A person has to be like this eternal fire that is going up and up and up. And that fire, you should take it and you should immerse yourself in the study of Torah. Says the Nesiv Shalom, the first thing that a person needs when it comes to learning is you got to recognize that you have a fiery soul. Your neshama is on fire. It's like a light. It's just like the Chazal tell us that there's two things in this world which are always the way that thing is to go up. Fire. When you light a fire, the flame is always going up. Even if you go like this and like this, it always bounces back up. And the neshama also is the same power. It's like the fire, it's supposed to be going up all of the time. So you have a fiery neshama inside of you. You have to awaken and arouse every flame of love, and every little desire that you have to love the Torah. Like it says in the pasuk over there, in the love of the Torah, I was meshuga, I went crazy, I was driven, I was thinking about it constantly. That's number one. A person has to be fiery. Everybody is fiery. We have a neshama, we have a nefesh that is burning inside of us like you can't even imagine. Sometimes we feel like we are not fiery. Sometimes we don't feel the flames of excitement that are there. However, says in Nesiv Shalom, the first step in Torah is you have to know how much avos HaTorah, how much love of the Torah, how much oomph, how much you have inside of you, these tremendous koiches that are there. And if you can tap into it, if you can get into it, so it just makes the Torah that much easier to learn. The difference between a person who learns with fire, with bread, and a person who learns not with fire, it's two different worlds of Torah, two different worlds of learning altogether. When I was a bach in yeshiva many years ago, there was a bach in the yeshiva. He was like a ball of fire. And his name was Elchanan Resnick. I believe that today he's like a big Rosh Yeshiva somewhere in Eretz Yisrael. He was not very tall. He was probably about maybe 5'4", but he was a ball of fire. He used to walk around the Beis Midrash screaming, yelling, fire, flames shooting out of his mouth. Everybody knew that when he was in the midst of like a sugyan, he was thinking deep. You just stay out, you're going to get burned down to the ground. He was fire. And he would argue with Rabbi, he would argue with his Chavrus. He was on fire. And this young man went on to learn and learn and learn. I believe, I have to find out for sure, but I believe that I heard last that he's like a Rosh Yeshiva somewhere in Eretz Yisrael, which is no small feat. To be a Rosh Yeshiva, not a small feat. To be a Rosh Yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael, you have the fire. That's what becomes of you. That's the first thing he says. Then he writes, okay. Sorry, I skipped. B'mayim, when it comes to water, what is water? Water is indicative of the powers of ava, of love, and that desire that is inside of the person to love Torah. Oh, so I read the wrong thing before. So she'yoira kol lahat ha'ava u'tshuka sheboy la'avas ha'Torah b'chinas me'avasa tishka tamid. Sorry, let me just go back for a second, so just we'll understand. There's aish, there's fire. That's the koyach of the neshama of the nefesh that a person has. Then there is water. Water is clean. Water is smooth. Water is sweet. Water flows. The ava that a person is supposed to have for the Torah, when they realize what Torah is in their lives, how a person cannot live without Torah, it's our very life force and everything. So the ava, the love that one has for the Torah, is supposed to be unquenchable thirst, that nothing gets in the way. He's as it says in the pasuk, he's like meshug, he's like crazy. If you love something, you love someone, there's something that you really enjoy. So nothing gets in the way of that thing. I had a friend many, many years ago that he was first generation is American Israeli. That's how it works. His parents, his grandparents, they're all Israeli. He was born here in America. Their family was not religious at all, not at all. And you'll hear that from this story. And this boy told me that one day his Saba, came to him and he says, my dear Neched, my dear grandson, today we have a great day ahead of us. We're going to have an amazing day. Really, Saba, what are we going to do today? He says, I love cinnamon buns. He says, you like cinnamon buns too? I said, yes, of course, Saba. He said, okay, today we're going on the hunt for the best cinnamon bun in town. And they spent the next, I don't know what it was, 3, 4, 5 hours, Cinnabon, this bakery, that bakery, driving all around town, taste testing every single one until they came to the one that was the best tasting cinnamon bun. When you love something, when you like something, you'll be a meshuggah. What a funny thing to do on a Sunday morning. But nothing will get in the way because you love it that much. So al-achas kama v'kama, all the more so when it comes to the Torah, which again is the kiheim chayenu, is the life force of Klal Yisrael. A Jew can't do anything without Torah in his life. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's mind is the Torah. Our yachas, our connection to Hashem is the Torah. And therefore, everything that's in the Torah should engender the tremendous ava, the love that we're supposed to have. And therefore, shiyah you have to ignite the sparks of ava for you in your Torah. And then BAMIDBAR. And then comes along the wilderness. Sheyasim atzmai kemidbar makom hefker. You have to make yourself like a midbar, like a desert, like a wilderness, a place that is hefker, that has it's ownerless. You have no owner. Hainu, what does that mean? Shim eino yachal. This he says a beautiful idea. Shim eino yachal la'era koyecha esha b'kir b'latah kadosha. If you cannot awaken inside of yourself the sparks of fire and the flames of that's inside of you for the sake of the Torah, and you also cannot awaken and arouse the great love that you have for the Torah, your heart's just not listening. Your heart doesn't hear the words of Torah. It doesn't understand the Torah. It doesn't understand. This is one of the perils of Daf Yomi, is that not only do you not sometimes understand, I myself, sure don't understand what I'm talking about. So that makes it very difficult. So it's very difficult then to be learning, and you can't hear what the Gemara is saying. If a person would hear the words of the Gemara, if they would understand the basic shakavatara, the back and forth, they would understand a concept a little bit better, a little bit clearer, then nishmalav, they would begin to hear what the Torah is saying. When you begin to hear what the Torah is saying, what comes after that? It brings you to a place of avas HaTorah, loving the Torah. When you understand the Torah and you taste the sweetness of the Torah, then a person begins to have ava, they begin to love the Torah. I remember many years ago when I was a bacher learning in yeshiva in Ner Yisrael. So my Rebbe that year was Rav Kalevsky Zatzal. He was a person, he loved Torah. You could see him, he would say the words, he was chewing on the words. He would sit, he would revel in the words that he was saying. Before he would say over the whole answer to the whole shir that he was building up, he would sit there, he would like munch on the words, and then he would get a big smile on his face, and then he would share these words with him. So one time when I was in his shir, I had just gotten to the shir, and it was like a revolutionary way to learn Torah. He was in a whole different world of existence, and we never tasted such sweetness before. So I remember it was a Friday afternoon, and we went to shir, and he said over one of the most beautiful things I ever heard in the Gemara in my entire life. And as he was munching on the words of Gemara, and he was enjoying every little bite, I actually, for the first time in my life, tasted the real sweetness of what the Torah was. And I was so overwhelmed with this avas HaTorah, with this love of the Torah that was there. I remember it was normally you would go down after the shir was over, you'd go down to the dining room to eat. I couldn't eat. I couldn't even go into the dining room. I was so busy munching on that Torah, I could not go to eat. Guys were going into town. I used to like to go into town, but I couldn't move. I was like paralyzed in avas HaTorah. And that's what he's saying. We don't get there very often. We don't get it very much. But when you do, you hang on to it. You hold on to it and you keep moving in that direction. But if you can't, he says, that's the last ingredient of Torah. And the last ingredient of Torah, he says, is called the midbar, called the wilderness. You have to make yourself like a makam hefker, like you're ownerless. You can't bring out the fires and you can't bring out the love because your heart just doesn't hear. What's the advice the Midrash is giving us? Hachna vizbatlus. Humble yourself and lower yourself to a place that you've never been before. Make yourself ownerless, hefker, to the Holy Torah itself. Be mevatel, subjugate all of yourself to the Torah. That means that without Torah, I'm a nothing. Without Torah, I'm a nothing. And I'm giving over my whole self to Torah. Without Torah, we have nothing in our lives. The Torah is our life. We have to become like we're one with the Torah. Fires in the nefesh and the neshama, we're not so fiery. That's it. We're just not. We're Tarzan in California, 2024. We got a lot on our plate, a lot on our head. Fires, we don't see so often. Avas HaTorah. We love so many other things in this world. How do you have Avas HaTorah? I love my car. I love my house. I love my wife. I love my kids. I love my money. I love my job. I love my manicured grass in front of my house. I love the vacation that's coming up. I love it all. Love Torah too. I don't have time to love Torah. There's no room in my heart for love. My kids used to ask for a dog when we were younger. I said, I only have so much love inside my heart. Either I'm going to give my love to you or the dog. Which one would you like? They said, how about the dog? I said, that's okay. I'd rather reserve my love for you. So we don't have enough love. We don't know what it means. Avas HaTorah, love Torah. You hear stories of the people that love Torah. We'll see in a moment one of these stories. That's a whole different world. But at least, he says, if you don't have the fire in the neshama, and you don't have the burning ava, the love that's like flowing like the water, at least you could be mavata yourself. You could subjugate yourself to the Torah. You can make yourself hefker, like ownerless to the Torah, which means I recognize without the Torah in my life is actually nothing. And therefore, me and the Torah were like one mitzias. We're together as one. And we are now standing on the gates of the Chag of the Yom Tiv of Shavuos. We're going and we're asking, we're beseeching Hashem. This is what we should tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This was written for Tarzanian Jews over here. Ribono shel olam. Ein bi eish kodesh. I don't have the holy fires. Ve'ein bi chukas kedushas love lefanecha lekavos. I don't even have this burning love to go stand in front of you and receive the Torah. Harani v'chol sheli, but everything I have, batul umavutol v'hefker kimidbar lefanecha. Everything I have, I give to you, Hashem. Uletorascha kedosh, I give it to you and to the Torah. I am going to be like a person ownerless. I don't need this. I don't need this. I don't need that. I give it all to you, Ribono shel olam, so I can live my life according to the Torah. Now, the way that the Siva Shalom is making it sound is that if you don't have fire and you don't have the water, but at least you can have this. But even this is enough. Even for a person to be mevatel themselves, to humble themselves, to subjugate themselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to say that whatever I have, it's nothing if it's not within the realm of Torah. Even that is a big, big avodah that we have to work on. There's a very beautiful Maisa that I saw recently about a Rebbe by the name of the Machanovka Rebbe. He was in Siberia, so this is going back already probably from World War I times. He was in Siberia, separated from his family, his loved ones, because he committed some crime, a crime that they could only make up over there. in Russia. And he found himself one day, he's walking around Siberia. It is subhuman conditions. The freezing cold, you could actually literally freeze in the snow if you don't have some kind of place to go and shelter yourself. And he's wandering around to try to find a place where he could find some shelter. And in the midst of this forest where he is, he suddenly sees a little hut. And he goes and he knocks on the door of this hut, of this little house. And suddenly an old woman appears. And at first, she looks at him and she's very hesitant to let him in, a stranger in Siberia, in the middle of the winter, knocking on the door. She wasn't so excited to let him in. But it was so cold outside. She had Rahman, and she realized, if I don't let him in, maybe he's going to freeze to death, maybe he's going to die. So she lets him in, and she takes him over to a cold, dark attic, and she says, you can stay up there in that attic. She gives him a small little lantern with a little flickering of light that is there. He goes up into the attic all alone, tired, hungry, starving, worn out, and the candle is flickering and it's getting darker. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door of the attic. And the old lady walks in. And she says to the Rebbe, are you Jewish? And he says, yes, why? She said, I thought you were. Because you remind me of the original owner of this house that lived here before me. When I bought the house from him and he left two books, two of those Jewish books. He left them behind. I kept them tucked away in a corner all these years. I have no use for them, but you're a Jew. You probably have a use for them. Can I give them to you? And the Rebbe says, yes, please, of course. And she pulls out a Chumash and a Masechta Megillah, the tractate Megillah in Shas. And she gives them to the Rebbe. Now, the Rebbe had been in Siberia for who knows how long. The last time that he saw a Chumash, the last time that he saw a Gemara, who knows how long ago that it was. He's freezing, he's tired, he's hungry, he's worn out, he's far away from his family, far away from his home, far away from everything. And he's in a little tiny attic with a little flickering lantern of light like this. He begins devouring the Chumash, devouring the Masechta, page by page, daf after daf, daf after daf. And every moment that keeps passing by, it seems to be that his spiritual life is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's almost as if that lantern, which was flickering, suddenly is burning brighter and brighter and brighter. And he's getting more enthusiastic, more fire, more aish, more water, more love of Torah. That one Masechta that this woman gave him, he would end up learning that tractate Megillah hundreds of times throughout his exile in Siberia. Kihem chayenu, because the Torah is our life. The Torah is who we are. The Torah is what we are. And when a person, even if they're freezing cold in Siberia, can realize that they have fires of Kedusha, the fires of the Torah inside of them, the neshama begins to come to life. The darkness becomes light, the cold becomes warm, the exhaustion suddenly fades away. Rabbi Eliashiv Zeichet Tzaddik Livracha, one of the last years of his life, it was Motzei Yom Kippur, after Yom Kippur. His family did not want him to fast that year. He said, I'm fine. Zaidi, you're 100 years old. I'm fine. And he fasted that year on Yom Kippur. And the rule was like this. He had a grandson that was staying with him. And the family told the grandson, the minute that Yom Kippur is over, you make sure the Zaidi eats. And after he eats, you get him into bed right away. He needs to rest and sleep after fasting for an entire day. So after Yom Kippur is over, they come back to the house. They make Havdalah. And Rabbi Yashiv eats. You can only imagine He didn't sit down to a big hearty meal like us. He ate minimal. And then the grandson kept saying, Zayda, everybody says you have to go to sleep now. So you get your koiches, you get your strength back. And Rabbi Yasha said, sure, I'll go to sleep. And he was walking on his way to his bedroom. And as he's walking on his way to his bedroom, so in his house, there's bookshelves lining the hallways. He's walking to the bedroom to go to sleep after a 100-year-old man has fasted the entire day in davened. And he glances at the bookshelf for 1 second as he's about to walk into his room, and he sees a sefer that he wants. And he looks at the sefer, he pulls it off the shelf. Let me just learn one thing before I go to sleep. He opens up the sefer and he starts learning. And Rav Eliashib had tremendous abilities to concentrate in an instant. The next thing he knows, he's learning the sefer, and he's walking back to his table and chair where he would sit for hours on end on a regular day and learn. He sits down and he starts learning and learning and learning and learning, and he ended up staying up the entire night after Yom Kippur, and he learned through whatever that sefer and other svarim was. In the morning, it now is whatever, like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, it's time for Rabbi Yashin to go daven. And he still has a little bit of learning left to do. His grandson comes over with a cup of coffee and milk. And Rabbi Yashin says, milk? I'm fleshig. We just ate dinner. So he said, Zaidi, you ate dinner like 8 hours ago. You've been learning nonstop the entire night. Ve'avasei sishke samid, says Rabbi Yashiv, as we're saying over here, when a person has a love of Torah, it overwhelms them, it overcomes them. Nothing can get in the way of that. Rav Hirsch writes on the Parsha, which is talking about the census of Klal Yisrael. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is making an accounting of all of the Jewish people. He says it's very important to note the following factual piece of information over here. And that is that there's a reason that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose to make the census in the Midbar, in the wilderness. Because in the wilderness, he says, it proves us that the purpose of the census of Klal Yisrael was neither economic nor political, because economics and politics have no room in the Midbar, in the desert, in the wilderness. There's nothing there. It's an ownerless, desolate place. There will be no Trump, and there will be no Biden. There will be no debates, nothing. There's no money to be made over there. There's no businesses that are prospering and thriving. It is empty and desolate. There's nothing that is there at all. And says Rav Hirsch, you know why HaKadosh Baruch Hu did that? Because the words B'Sinai, the B'Midbar Sinai that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving this whole recollection of what took place in Midbar Sinai, and speaks about the Oyel Moed attend the meeting, is telling us that the census is to be made in the service of the Torah, which was given on Sinai, and the homage to be paid in the Oyel Moed. Meaning, what's the value of a Jew? What's the value of our nation? What is the importance of knowing how many Yidden there are in Klal Yisrael? Says Rav Hirsch, you know what it is? It all depends on the Torah. How much that a person is connected to the Torah, that is the true value of their life. How much the nation is connected to the Torah, that is the true value of Klal Yisrael. But if a person is disconnected from Torah, or we have a nation that is disconnected from our Torah, so then that is the devaluation of the holiness and the spirit and the kedusha of Klal Yisrael. And therefore, when we make a census, it's not a census that has to do anything with politics, because it's going to change how much taxes we're going to pay. Nothing to do with economics, because economics is not what is on the mind of Klal Yisrael. What is really on the mind of Klal Yisrael is, are we living a life that is B'Midbar Sinai, connected to Torah, Is that the defining aspect of who we are and what we are? Or is it not? Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when I will count you in the midbar, I will count you in a place that will make you have to realize that the central theme in your life is Sinai, Oyel Moyed, Torah, and nothing else. And therefore says Parsha, in this week's Parsha, and says the Midrash over here as well, that a person has to know that the reason that the Torah was given with fire and water and midbar and wilderness is because these three components are what will elevate and enhance our experience in our own Kabbalah HaTorah, in the own way that we're going to receive the Torah in our lives when we will stand next Tuesday night, less than a week. Next Tuesday night, the minhag in Klal Yisrael is to stay awake the entire night. That's the minhag. Whether you do it, whether you're not a bad person if you don't stay awake the whole night. We need someone to say brachas in the morning, so you're doing us a favor. But we know that the minhag is, even though Rabbi Yashiv never stayed up the whole night. He didn't stay up the night of Shavuos, because he said like this: I had a very strict schedule of learning. He learned about maybe, 16, 18 hours a day. A day. They say when Rav Nosson Finkel came to the Mir Yeshiva, and he was an Americanish boy from Chicago, and he came to the Mir Yeshiva as a young lad, 16, 17 years old, and his uncle, Rav Lezer Yudel Finkel, was the Rosh Yeshiva, was training him and grooming him to become the next Gadol Hador, which he did become. So in order for him to be able to catch up, he had to learn with some great Talmidei Chachamim in the yeshiva to be able to work on his skills and be able to learn. So one of the Talmidei Chachamim that he learned with, I believe, was a Rabbi Kamai, and they were learning together, and they learned first Seder. So the yeshiva is broken up. Just the first Seder is like from 9 to 1. Then there's a break, usually mincha and lunch, let's say, and from 3 to like 7. Depending on the place, 3 to 6:30, 3 to 7 is second Seder, the second part of the day. Then you go, you have dinner, then you come back again. And let's say from like 8:30 till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night is the third time that you learn this. So the whole day is learning. So this young American boy from Chicago, who never learned intensely and seriously before, he comes and he sits down on the first day with his new chavrusa, who was there to elevate his learning. And they're learning, and they go from 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 9 a.m. to 1 o'clock. And they say, okay. And he closes the Gemara, and he says, okay, that's first Seder. He's like, wow, that's great. So says Nosson Finkel, the young 7-year-old boy, that's great. He says, so what do you guys do in the afternoon? So he said, we learn. And he says, no, like, what do you do? Like, you go play ball, like you go for like what do you do? He says, we learn another 3 or 4 hours. Okay, so nighttime, like what do you do at night? We come back and we learn again. That's what we do. So Nosson Finkel, this 70-year-old boy from Chicago, he didn't know what hit him, and yet he continued to go, learning together with his chavrusa, with his great uncle, the Rosh Yeshiva, Lezer Yudel Finkel, until he went on to become the great Rav Nosson Finkel, the Rosh Yeshiva, who built the Torah probably more in our generation than anybody. All of the whole area where the Mir Yeshiva is, they make a joke, something, if you want to know where the Mir Yeshiva is, just wait a few weeks, it'll be over here. Because he was so busy buying up property and building buildings and building new Bati Midrashim. The Mir just blossomed under him. Because this was a man that had a tremendous ava, a love for the Torah. He had fire in his nefesh, tremendous fires in there. And he was mabat himself. He didn't have much of a physical life. He had Parkinson's from the age of 40 to the age of 68 when he passed away. 38 years of his life, he was battling Parkinson's. His body was like shut down to a certain extent. He was hefker, like a midbar, like a wilderness. He didn't have any of that. And that's, says the Torah, is the power that we have. We're going to stand before HaKadosh Baruch Hu next Tuesday night. And the minhag, like we're saying, is that we're supposed to stay up the whole night and we're supposed to learn. We're learning to be misak in the chet. It fixes up the mistakes of Klal Yisrael. When Hashem was ready to give the Torah, somehow the Jewish people were snoozing. They forgot to set their alarm. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Yidden, you want the Torah? What? What's the Torah? You already said Nasim and Ishmael. You want the Torah? Oh, did I miss my alarm? Did I forget to set my alarm? And Hashem had to wake up the Jewish people to receive the Torah. I just heard somebody the other day who was on a TED Talk. That's such thing. I didn't hear the TED Talk. Whatever the TED Talk, he was going to be on a TED Talk. He said his stomach was in knots for days. He wasn't sleeping. He wasn't eating. He was nervous beyond belief. You have 18 minutes to be able to give over your message. Klal Yisrael is sitting on the night before the Torah is going to be given to us. You go to sleep. You could rest. You could sit there and snore away with disease coming out of your nose over there. How can you do such a thing? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that He gives the biggest gift in the world. So because of that, what's our job? We come on Shavuos. We stay up the whole night to make a rectification and a restitution of that which took place thousands of years ago. We are not going to miss the opportunity with our burning neshamas and our tremendous ava and mavatal ourselves. We say you can't eat the whole night on Shavuos. Otherwise, you're not like a midbar. You're not like an empty wilderness. You can eat maybe 1 hour, maybe one bite of ice cream, maybe one churro, a cup of coffee here, a cup of coffee there. But you can't. The night is not for eating. The night is hisbatlos, to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When a person does all of that, then like the Siva Shalom says, we come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and we say, Ribono shel Olam, Master of the universe, Ein b'yesh kodesh, even if I don't have the fires in my neshama, the Ein b'tshuka kedusha is love lefanecha l'kabel Torah. I don't even have this love that's burning inside of me to receive the Torah. However, everything I have, it's for you. Before you and your Torah. And if a person approaches HaKadosh Baruch Hu like that on Shavuos, the holiness and sanctity of the day will come over him. I think this Kabbalah's HaTorah, and we will be zeicha to receive the Torah. So Amir Hashem, as we are preparing ourselves, the next week we have to try to find the bellows over there to awaken the fires inside of our neshama. We have to work on the ava, the love that we have of the Ribono shel Olam and His Torah. And if all else fails, we have to be mevatel ourselves. We have to humble ourselves and make ourselves ownerless before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so that we can be the receptacle of the Torah. And in that schus, the holiness of the day of Shavuos will envelop us. We'll have a new, renewed connection and a kesher with the Torah. And in that schus, as Klal Yisrael is waiting all year long for the glorious sounds of Mashiach to come, it's going to be in the schus of how much we are willing to follow HaKadosh Baruch Hu into that midbar, into that wilderness. Lechtech acharai BAMIDBAR, to go after him in the wilderness, into a land that there's nothing there, because we show HaKadosh Baruch Hu how much we love him, how much we love his Torah, how much we love our neshama. And in that zechus and Yetz Hashem, we should be zeicha to the ultimate expression of our love and his love with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkeinu b'meira v'yameinu. Amen.